is a great place to work on our posture. Today we're going to be focusing on finding space in the areas that we usually collapse and crunch into. One of those places is the head. We tend to push our head forward. The other spaces in the upper back, we tend to hunch in the thoracic spine. So we're going to use the wall as a way to find some space in those places. And we're going to focus on this feeling of elongation in the body. We think about the center axis of the body from the crown of the head to the tip of the tailbone, and we're trying to pull those ends away from each other to find that feeling of height. I'm also going to show you a couple of techniques that you can use at home in your day-to-day life. In the yoga studio, we have this bar here that we use to hold on and create traction, but if you're doing this at your home practice, holding onto the front of the kitchen sink works really well for this. So let's get into our practice to grow taller. We're going to start in mountain pose with our back against the wall. This really foundational pose that we use in our yoga practice. Don't feel like the heels have to be all the way back against the wall. If moving the feet forward makes you feel like you can get better contact with the wall, that is perfect. We're going to bring the hands back toward the wall. And as soon as we start to move the body in that direction, we're noticing if it's challenging for us to bring the shoulders back or to bring the head back toward the wall. Then we use a few deep breaths to start to inflate the front of the body. Just breathing into the chest and breathing into the rib cage can help to draw the shoulders back. And as the shoulders go back, that can make it easier for the head to come back. Then we start to connect to that feeling of lifting up, sensing the pull of gravity, that settling force, the grounding of the feet down into the mat. And then we counter that by creating some effort right up through the center line, right up to the crown of the head. Then we emphasize that upward movement by taking either a yoga block or a book, and we're going to do that classic posture exercise where we place something to rest on the top of the head, and it's just giving us that extra awareness of the crown. So as we come into our mountain pose, we're thinking about lifting, pushing the block higher up toward the ceiling. After a couple of breaths, we're going to take that block down away from the head, and we're going to turn the body around to bring the hands to rest onto the wall. One of the spaces where we really start to lose some of our height is when the head comes forward, because we're always looking down at our phones. What I like to do at the wall is bring the body back into that space where you can have the back of the pelvis, the back of the shoulders, and the back of the head as close to the wall as you can get it. If there's a lot of space there, I'm going to place an eye pillow back there. You can roll up a towel and place that just behind the skull. Think about keeping the neck in a very neutral position and gently pressing back into that prop. We're working on retraining the head to stay over the top of the shoulders instead of in front of it. Then layering on top of that sense of upward lift, length up through the crown. Balance that out with an exhale to ground down into the feet, so it's that drawing the body in opposite directions. Then if you'd like to take that a step farther, you can bring the back of the elbows to the wall and start to Gently push the elbows into the wall to draw the shoulders back. Just make sure that as you push the elbows and the shoulders back, you don't start to push your rib cage forward or overarch the spine. We're trying to keep that very lengthened position. Everything's stacked. Feel the shoulder blades hugging back. As you exhale, arms relax. Take that prop out from behind your head if you were pressing against something, and roll the shoulders back. Now as I turn around to bring the hands onto the wall, we're going to come into downward facing dog by walking the feet back, trying to find that 90-degree angle from the hip. Feel free to generously bend the knees until this feels comfortable. This space here, the sense of lengthening comes from pressing the palms into the wall and reaching the sitting bones back in the opposite direction. And then I'm going to start to add a little bit of a cat and cow movement. Arching and bending forward. Come back into neutral, push the wall away, reach the hips straight back. So now we're going to lift one leg back. This is like Warrior 3 pose, but I'm always pleasantly surprised how much more accessible this version of Warrior 3 is compared to trying to do this in the middle of the room. We're reaching back strongly with the foot, finding space along the left side of the body. Okay, and then carefully change over to the other leg. Reaching back, keeping the pressure from the palms into the wall. Lowering that leg down. You can come back into that little bit of cat and cow. And we walk ourselves right into the wall, taking our wall version of cobra pose or back bend. The belly and the hips come forward. The head gently lifts. Draw the shoulders back. And then start to pull yourself away from the wall. With that same idea of working on the wall, I'm going to come over to the bar, and this is where, if you're doing a home practice, you're going to hold on to the front of your kitchen sink. That's a great space to create some traction in the body. So we hold on to whatever edge you can hold, and we start to come into that downward facing dog, but more weight settling back toward the hips, and very generous with the knee bend. You can play around with that movement, bending and straightening the legs, but keeping that backward reach. And then we'll start to sway the pelvis, reaching back through the left sitting bone and the right sitting bone. Alternating space on one side, space on the other side, and then back to center. So if that one felt pretty good creating that traction, we're just going to go for a slightly lower version of that. Be mindful of how your knees feel about squatting. You might want to stay with the previous version, or we'll start to come down toward a squat, and I'm leaning some of my weight back, almost like I'm hanging from the bar, or if you're at home, from your sink. This is a really nice stretch that I like to do in the morning. Use the support to draw yourself back up. Take a nice deep breath to lift the front of the body, finding that upward lift and space. Coming down onto the mat, we're going to find hands and knees in tabletop position. And as you do, you're just going to measure your distance from the wall. We want one leg distance, just like that. That's where I'm going to plant myself into my table pose. Okay, now I'm going to start with the right leg, and I plant the sole of the foot onto the wall. And we're going to go into our classic balancing table movement, where I take the opposite arm and I'm reaching that away. But I'm focusing on the feeling of gently pressing my foot into the wall, moving my hand in the opposite direction to create space. Bringing the hand down, bringing the knee down, changing over to the other side. Plant the left foot onto the wall at about hip height. Get some good pressure into the wall, reach the opposite arm away. Find a little bit more length as you inhale. Take your exhale, bring the hand down, bring the knee down. Lower yourself all the way down onto your belly. And I just have the tips of my toes on the wall. You can wiggle forward or back until you find just the right amount of space. Take your inhale, lift up into a gentle back bend, and I'm going to slide my feet up the wall. I'm creating a bit of pressure back toward the wall to feel like I'm lengthening my legs. And then I'm bringing my arms up, squeezing the shoulders back. If it feels comfortable for you, you might want to start to reach the arms forward to get more of that sense of lengthening away from the wall. Arms back, hands down, head down, and rest. From there, we're going to roll over to bring the feet against the wall. You might want to put a cushion underneath the hips if it's hard for you to sit with the legs straight. And then we're going to grab a block. And first we're sitting, pushing the feet into the wall, using your inhale to create that sense of upward lift. You could put the block back onto your head if you like that feeling of lifting and lengthening. But right now I'm just going to hold the block in between my hands and use that to create the upward lift. This is a pose that requires more effort than it looks like to hold the posture and to create that sense of opening. Okay, then we bring the block down, rolling down onto the back, taking the block with us. Here I come into a supine version of mountain pose on my back, lifting the arms overhead, pushing the feet into the wall. Block goes in the opposite direction. Bring the block back down. You can place that over to the side and then let the arms open out to the sides, and let yourself rest here in a nice shavasana with the feet supported at the wall as a sense of grounding and support. You can rest here for as long as you like and just enjoy that newfound sense of space in the body. Thank you so much for joining me in this practice at the wall. And then I encourage you to come over to my channel, Laura G Yoga, and see all of the various wall practices and techniques that I share from my new book, Yoga Therapy at the Wall. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the podcast. I just wanted to talk to you guys about the book that I released in June of 2019, which is called Yoga Therapy at the Wall. I've worked on this book for the past 3 years to create all of the pictures and all of the information in here. It's 162 pages and it's a full color manual. The chapters are broken down by body parts that we focus on, using the wall to help us learn about different movement patterns and how to change some of the yoga postures to have a specific therapeutic focus. And you can really start to understand when you look at the book why I feel like the wall is the most underutilized prop that we have in yoga. We kind of forget about these things that we have all around us and that we almost always have access to a wall to utilize in the practice. So this manual will give you a ton of ideas to expand and start to utilize the wall as a prop. If you're interested in ordering, you can get the printed version on lulu.com. You can either take the link in the show notes or you can go on Lulu and look up Yoga Therapy at the Wall. There's also a digital download option, but for that you have to go on Etsy. And my Etsy store is Healthy Focus by Laura G. Or you can just search Yoga Therapy at the Wall. Thanks. Hope you enjoy it.